Hey there. Many of you have not been up to the top of the Peace Dale Congregational Church steeple, and since we just finished restoring it, I thought it would be a good chance to use the magic of smartphone technology and do a video tour of the whole steeple and the clock and the bell and so on. So let's go on up and take a look. When you enter the steeple, lower steeple level, you'll see the first thing you notice are ladders here where the church stores these taller things which are hard to store elsewhere in the facility. And there's also, you see some ropes hanging down from the steeple. The large one is actually turns the bell on its yoke, and it rings it as you heard. There's also a tolling bell, a little hammer that's mounted inside the bell itself, and allows us to just ring that exactly as we want. There's also two tubular bells installed up on the bell level, and you see these two colored ropes. Pull those. A couple of tubular bells that were installed for a wedding in the late 1890s, and so we'll look at those when we get up there. So as we go up the stairway, this is the lowest level, and it takes us up. The first landing goes up to the door that leads into the balcony area. Take a peek, so if anyone wants to sneak in the really back way to church, this is how you do it. And then the next, I'm going to turn the camera off because we're going to go up through here, and it's a little tight, and so just so you don't get jiggled around. So and we're up to the top of these steps, so I'll join you. Okay, we're up on the bell level, and the first thing we see up here that faces you is these open-air louvers, which you can see from the outside of the church. Very tall, I'll estimate about 12 to 15 feet high. And they are open to the air to allow the bell sound to travel far and wide. Being open to the air, we also get some weather in here. It'll get wet in here a little bit, and sometimes even some snow will blow in. And you see, this is the bell. This is the Manili bell, about 1,600 pounds. It was installed at the same time the clock was. You see the round wheel on the bell. That is that's the rope that does the ringing of the bell that I pulled earlier. And you also see the small hammer under there, and that was the tolling that's connected to the tolling rope, the tolling hammer, if you will, that wraps on the inside of the bell. But what we're going to look at is the hammer. This is the clock hammer, which is this metal hammer right here, and this is connected to the clock via this the rope that goes up to the clock, and we'll see that in a little bit. But that pulls on this hammer, and it gives a little tap. You'll see how far it pulls back later on. It gets pretty loud in here if it's ringing while the bell's going off, so we generally avoid that. I'm going to go on the other side. Over here is the other side of this bell. There you can see there's an inscription right in here, and that it's hard to read the inscription because it's facing the frame of the yoke, but it reads that Roland G. Hazard gifted this to the church, and it's dated 1872, and then there's a quote at the bottom says, "Peace on earth, goodwill toward men." So it was a nice thing that Roland G. Hazard did for the church, in addition to all the other things he did. Right beyond the bell, you'll see this big, tall wooden box, and the weights fall down through there, or they don't fall down. They are guided down by the box. There you see this weight right here is the strike weight. That's about 1,200 pounds of iron, and that'll go all the way to the bottom. The bottom goes right there. So the weights only go to the bell level, and that'll go just about 7 days for the strike weight. The time weight, which is about 350 pounds, that's further up in this smaller box, and that's only about 350 pounds. And that goes to about halfway just about to the top of the wheel there is about how far the time weight will go down, and then it's to the end of its wire. Here on the corner of this bell level, you see the tubular bells, the two tubular bells that I rang before, and these were installed in 1893 by Irving Fisher on the occasion of the wedding of his daughter Margaret. And we have not included these bells in our restoration. Perhaps that's a future job. You can see that they ring this. I pulled on one of the ropes, and you can see that that's how they ring. So I'll have to work with the musical folks to see how we can incorporate these into the church, and maybe we'll do a restoration on these sometime in the future. So we're going to go up to the next level, which is the level behind the dials, behind the 4 clock dials of the steeple, and we'll look at that. So I'm going to turn it off while we move up. Okay, I'm at the top of the ladder and looking down at the bell, and then when we come up, so here you see the back of the dial, and this dial faces Columbia Street, and here behind the dial the motion works, and these wheels move the minute and the hour hand, and they receive their power from this motion rod. And there are 4 motion rods, each one going to the different face of the clock. So over here is the church parking lot, faces the church parking lot, Spring Street, and then behind these wooden boxes is the one that goes to the high school. And these 4 rods receive their power from this distributions, bevel gear distribution. So they get the power from the clock above. We'll show you that in a second. But these 4 bevels, driven by the bottom bevel, this bottom bevel drives these 4 bevels, and it sends the power to all 4 dials. Okay, I've moved myself on the other side of this space, and here you can see the pendulum and the bob, and that's ticking away, but 1.5 seconds per tick with a total period of 3 seconds. So the pendulum box just is this half of that box, and we'll see how the pendulum comes down off the clock to get down to here, and then to the right of that is the chain box. You see, the chain box is very narrow. It's only about the width of the chain. It's only about 1.5 inches wide. And it goes up. So as the chain comes down from the clock, as we wind the clock up, the chain just weaves itself back and forth into this space, so that when it takes it up, it doesn't have any kinking. So it's a nice way to capture the chain in between windings. So we're going to go up to the next level, which is the clock movement itself. So we're going to go up through this ladder, and then there's a trap door, and then we'll be up to see the clock level now. And the first thing we do when we get to the clock level is we close the door that we just went through for safety's sake, so that we don't fall back down the hole. And you see it's very bright up here now because we have 4 windows. As you first come through up the stairs, you see the window that faces the parking lot and the garden. And then we have the window facing Columbia Street. And then the window that faces the sanctuary and toward the high school. And then the window that looks towards the church house and Spring Street. The time weight comes in on this wire rope. It's about 350 pounds, and it's down in the box here because it's down. We're in the middle of the week, and so it pulls on the drum. This is the main wheel. So here we have the main wheel, and then we have the second and third time wheels and the escape wheel. It's the escape wheel with the verge. This is a Graham deadbeat verge that breaks up the release of power into equal intervals. This is really the time. This is the timekeeping part of the clock. And so the verge rocks away, and the crutch right here gives a little impulse to the pendulum, which keeps the pendulum going. And you saw the bob down below. So the pendulum is just a beautiful pendulum. We're fortunate that it's in pretty good shape. Winding the clock is done with this motor. So we have a, I don't know, maybe Phil Hawley thinks it was maybe in the 60s or 50s, this 1/4 horsepower motor was put in. And so we're able to wind the clock just by putting, put that wheel on there, and then we have a belt which goes around, and then we can wind up each one. If you follow the chain, goes around with this pulley, and this drives the strike. Sorry, this is the strike side. So the strike is right here. So this will drive this, and I'll trip it in a second, but just so you can see it up close before I do that. And so, you know, as this wheel turns, lifts the hammer, and this is the hammer lifting lever right here, and then this is connected down to the wire which goes down to the bell, the hammer on the bell that I showed you earlier. How does it start? Well, there's a lifting lever here, and there's a small pin. You can see this little pin on this gear right here. And when that pin goes around, it will lift this lever up, and then that will release the movement so that it'll ring the bell. This part of the strike movement has you see these large blades here. That's called the fan or the fly, and that is designed to That's designed to keep the speed of the clock from going too fast. So the angles of these blades can be adjusted so that it can speed up or slow down. And so when you hear the bell, it can go faster or slower. Right now we have it set on a fairly slow speed in order to try to preserve any stress on the teeth when it comes to a stop. So I'm going to do a little demonstration, and I'm going to release this lever so that you can see all this, how it works in real time. So first, as the time is released, as the strike is released, the first thing it does, it goes into warning, and then I'm slowly lifting the lever a little bit, and then that rack is going to go into place. There it goes. And then as time goes on, that pin falls under the lever, and then it lets go. And so you can see it counting. See the gathering pallets doing the counting, marking it off. The lifting wheel, the strike wheel is lifting the hammer. And that's what happens every hour. side of the clock, you see the E. Howard and Company, Boston, Mass. sign, and you also get appreciation for the original color that we restored it to. Some of the pictures I showed earlier didn't showed it when it was covered in dirt and grime. So you see that nice rust red on the legs, the main body of the clock. You see the nice cherry, that cherry pendulum came back to a nice beautiful color. And the plates on the time side also kept their time pretty good. And throughout the clock it has this nice black trim on it. There are a few parts that we had to do ourselves. Here's an example where the dial, our index dial, was in pretty good shape, but this cone piece here didn't have any paint on it, so we had to restore that. One of the things you see up above here are these large speakers, just above the windows. These are the speakers for the carillon, which the church has. The organist has a small little keyboard attached to the organ, and the organist, Gail, can usually she does it at the beginning, just before the beginning of the service. She'll play a small little tune on the carillon, and so that's all projected from up here. Some of you may have seen in the background this name on the beam, this Alexis, March 1903. Looking back at the records, there was an Alexis Gadabin who was the sexton at the church. And he took over being sexton right around 1903. And he did that for about 46 years, and so he would have been the clock winder and the clock caretaker. And so I guess it's appropriate for someone who took care of the clock that long that his name be ensconced up here with the clock. Just to the left of that also, you'll see there are instructions. It says directions for the care of a tower clock by E. Howard and Company, Boston, Mass. And that writes down all the things you have to do to wind the clock and oil the clock and to take care of it. So that was original, as far as we can tell, that was originally mounted here when the clock was installed. So it'll keep doing its job. That ends the tour. Thanks for joining me on this video tour of the Peace Dale Tower Clock, Peace Dale Church Tower Clock. Wish everyone a hearty farewell. Take care. Bye.